To create a function component, we're going to do const app equals, and that's going to take in a message, and the type of message will be a string, and that will return a div where we output the message. We are now getting a type error that the message is missing, so we'll pass the message here. And we see hello world. If we want a class component, we can do class app extends react.component, and we will say it takes in a message that must be a string, and then we'll create the render method, and output the message here. And it's telling us this must be marked public or private. The render method should be public. And we see hello world. If the component has state, you pass in a second object here describing the shape of your state. So let's say count is a number, and down here we'll output this dot state dot count, and we are getting an error because the state is not created yet. So we'll create a state initializer here. And we see hello world 0. If we go down here and create component did mount, and we do set interval where we do this dot set state and set count equal to some value, and we'll run this every second, and we'll set the value initially to 1, and in this we'll do an increment of that value. We will see that the counter is counting here. If instead we went here and tried to say I plus hello, we will get an error telling you that string is not assignable to number. So that's type safety for your state. Let's pull these types out of the generic here and name them. So we can say interface app props message string, and then we can reference that here. And the lint setup here wants us to name that with an I. And we can say interface I app state and pull this count number out. And reference that here. If your props take in something like children, you can do this, react dot React node to say that it takes in a child, or you could do an array like this to say it takes in multiple children. If you take in style, you can do something like this and say style is optional, which is what the question mark does, and say it's of type CSS properties on React. If you have something like an onChange handler, you would create a function signature like this, where you're taking in an event that is a react.form event, and that is a generic. So if it's an event on an HTML input element, you would pass that in here, and then when you go to define this, you'll get the correct event from your IntelliSense. So if we fill this out here and say our event handler is going to be a function that returns void. So if we go here and say onChange and go to pass in a function that takes in an event, and then we go event dot, we'll get the IntelliSense here as an auto suggestion.